We are recording the session so that students who are unable to attend have the benefit of viewing the recording afterwards. So as the introductory slide says, we will be chatting today a bit about conducting disciplinary or civil investigations. That's external to that which is being done by the South African Police Service. If I can just find my slide, perhaps I can move it on forward. We have a special guest this afternoon with us. I want to say in studio, but not really in studio, online. And it is an old colleague of mine, Mr. Jones, who will be joining us for this session. My apologies, I'm really having a challenge now. There's my PowerPoint presentation. So our mystery guest this afternoon is an old colleague of mine who has for many years been an investigator, both internal and external to the South African Police Service. Mr. Jones, you are on the floor. Can I ask that you unmute yourself and if you want to show us your face and then tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good afternoon. Let me just see if I can do that. Hi, Bernadine, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
I'm trying to get the camera to work.
If you can't, it's okay. Your image is on the screen.
Okay. Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gideon Jones. As you see, I've been investigator for 38 years. 19 of those years were in South African Police Service. I'm also a member of SIRA membership. I'm a member of the ICFP. That ICFP stands for the Institute of Commercial Forensic Practitioners. ICFP, Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, and also a member of the FBI National Academy. So yeah, I've been there, done it, done a lot of work in my time. I'm a private forensic investigator, also a part-time lecturer. That's basically my background.
And you have experience in a variety of environments, so not just operational, but on the academic side as well.
Yes. Yeah, I've done literally thousands of investigations. I've got an electronic casebook that I started, I think, yeah, about 15 years ago, and it's got about 3,000 entries already.
Oh my word!
So we do a lot of work. Yes.
Okay, all right. So you have your own company that you work for.
Yes, and I'm also a director in a company that do investigations for the short-term insurance industry, and we've done over the past 6 years, I think we've done 18,000 investigations.
Oh my word! Sure, that is phenomenal.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that. Yes. I think it's fair to say that you know what you're talking about. So Gideon, thank you for joining us this afternoon. As discussed briefly with you prior to the session, I'm going to guide you in a conversation on the following themes: doing investigations for corporate or private industry, your legislative parameters that empower you as a corporate investigator, things like what powers do you have, and then doing an investigation based on a letter of engagement or a mandate, and then the importance of a well-drafted investigative report. And then if there's time, we could chat a little bit about testifying, because that is more often than not where a lot of the investigations end up. So let's start by you telling us how it differs, how life outside the SAPS differs your legislative powers. You
Yeah,
mentioned SERA. You mentioned SERA, and just chat a bit about that as well.
yes, I'll chat about a little bit about it as well. I think what we have to, if we start from the top to the bottom, the overriding indication of what you have to do and how you have to do it is we look at the Constitution. I mean, that's the overriding guideline, if I can put it in that regard. When you're a police officer, you work in terms of the Police Act, where you are appointed as a peace officer. And if you look at the law, you'll see that the Police Act and the Criminal Procedure Act basically tells you what you can do, how you should do it, and what you should do. And then very important, that also helps you in the private environment because it tells you when you take cases to court. Then what is also important is we look at case law. That is very important because case law is what the courts decided. Now, there are two types. You've got your criminal case law, and you've also got your civil case law. The labor court case law, which tells us, especially in civil cases, what the current law is, what you should do, how you should do it, and how to go about your work. But it is important to notice there's a big difference between the two. If you go criminal, you have to work on a beyond reasonable doubt principle. When you're in a civil environment, you work on a balance of probabilities.
Okay.
That is also important if a private person who works, for instance, labor relations, who works, what was the things that one of the things that you asked me that we should talk about? We talk about disciplinary actions. That is civil in nature. But how I approach everything is I do it one way. And that is the way where it meets all requirements that are set by law or set by case law or the Constitution. And that is, I do it in such a way so that when I write my report or I write a statement, I can take that statement or that report to a criminal court case, if there are criminal cases, and you can use the same report and the same investigation and apply it in a criminal, in civil court or a disciplinary case in front of the labor courts. So the way you investigate is basically the same, but you have to understand the requirements in terms of law are different.
Okay.
And there are lots of differences that we can talk about. For instance, if you're a police officer, and you cannot, for example, if you're a constable, a sergeant, or a warrant officer, a non-commissioned officer, you cannot take a confession from a person. But if you're a private person or a private investigator, anything said to you is admissible as evidence. You have to understand that concept. Now, also, what is your mandate if you're a police officer? Your mandate as a police officer actually lies in the Police Act. Police officers do not know it, but the law mandates them. And the law tells them you have to go and investigate any case that is reported by a member of the public to the police. And if you're in a specific unit or station, your commander will tell you to go and investigate. That is your mandate. You've got the legal power behind you. In a civil environment, it works totally different. You've got no legal powers to investigate. You have to, I'm talking civil or in a private environment, not semi-state institutions. For example, if you are a member of SARS investigation team, or you work for the Special Investigation Unit, as I did, for example, there is legislation that will mandate you and authorize you to do certain things. Based on a decree issued by the state president, and where your boss will tell you this is what you have to go and do. There are specific things you can do, specific things you cannot do. You're also bound by exactly what you can and cannot do. That is if, let's say, you work for the Special Investigation Unit. But in a purely private environment, there is actually, if you look at it, the law, there's very little rules or laws that tells you what to do or not to do. You have to look at the laws that I've already stated that will guide you. That is usually how to do your work and what the legal requirements will be when you take a case to court. It's whether civil or a criminal.
Okay.
The majority of private investigations actually do not go that far. Majority of instances, specifically, let's say, cases of misconduct or where you investigate on behalf of a company, there are very few guidelines and laws that tells you what to do or not to do. Often your company policy will dictate what you can do or should not do. But remember, everything is underlies the Constitution is the law of the land.
Yeah.
And then you've got your different parts of legislation, and you've got case law. So if case law dictates that you cannot do X, and you go out and you do it, the moment that case goes to court or someone takes it to court or then your work will be off. It will fall down. A person can be acquitted, or the labor court can rule against you. In a civil litigation, or a civil case, when money is involved, you can get a claim against you, for example, if you've acted mala fide, that with other words, if you've acted not just unlawfully, but with the objective to do someone wrong, you can actually get civil action against you.
Sure.
So if you look at it from that perspective, and you have to know the nuances. You have to know the law. You have to know the rules of the game. If you don't know it, you can enter into a very complicated environment that you do not know much of. So it doesn't matter whether you're civil or criminal. You really have to know the law to an extent, in a practical sense. Yeah, you have to know what you can or cannot do. You must know, can I arrest a person, yes or no? Can I confront a person? Can I ask him a question? Can I take a statement? What are the requirements of a statement if I take one? How do I open a case docket at the police? How do I go ahead to prosecute the person? These are the stuff you have to know to be able to be an investigator. Doesn't matter which environment you're in. Can I, for example, can I as a private person enter another person's premises and search it? You must know what the law says on it. And there are lots of different things that you can or cannot do. Let me give you an example.
Yes.
Even as a police officer, if you do not have probable cause and you don't have legal cause to enter a person's premises, anything you find, that search might be deemed illegal.
Okay.
So you still have legislation, criminal legislation that guides you in that regard. In a private environment, you do not have any legal power to enter a person's premises, except if you obtain that power through, in certain cases, where a court can dictate you or can provide you with an order to enter a premises and conduct a specific kind of search. For example, go and search for computers on behalf of a company. That can happen.
Okay.
Even if it's not a criminal.
Or if the person gives you permission to enter the premises.
If the person gives you permission. What we often do is, or what we usually do, is you ask permission. If permission is denied, that's it, usually.
Yeah.
Secondly, if you want to talk to a person from a private environment or as a private investigator, and that person, whether he's a witness or a suspect, does not want to talk to you, they are under no legal obligation to do so.
Okay.
From a criminal perspective. But let us now say let's say I want to talk to Bernadine, and she works for UNISA. UNISA's policy may force every employee to talk to an investigator if it's part of a company investigation and part of the company work and the work that you are doing in your company. In other words, the rules and regulations of your company can force you to, for instance, talk to the investigator. You can, of course, deny it. But then disciplinary action might be taken against you for denying or for not working with the investigator. But not criminally. Nothing can count against you.
Okay.
You're not obliged to say anything at all. But
Okay.
now, interest sake, let me give you an example. If you're a police officer
Mm-hmm.
and you're driving in a state vehicle and someone says you're drunk, there's an accident, and your commander of another police officer asks you, are you under the influence? You say, I've
Yeah.
got my right to remain silent. Of course you have that right.
Mm.
But remember, you did not give a reason there. So they can charge you misconduct. They can actually use that as evidence against you. So you sit with
Sure.
these two things, the criminal side
Mm.
and your civil side or your company side, your labor relations side. And you must
Okay.
understand how it interacts and what can be done on the one and not on the other or both.
Okay. But in a
Very
company
interesting.
setting, let's say, for example, I
Yes.
work for UNISA. In a company setting,
Yes.
it's the policy of that company that dictates how, what, where, when, and why. Other than legislation, of
Yes.
course. Okay.
Other than legislation. But company policy must always adhere to legislation.
To legislation.
You've
Yes.
got
Yeah.
company policy that contradicts legislation or case law. That company policy will not stand up in any hearing.
Okay. All right.
The court will throw it out.
Okay.
The company cannot force you to do something that's illegal in terms of any law.
Okay. That's important to know. Talk to us a little bit about SIRA.
Okay. Now, if you look at SIRA, that's a private security industry regulating authority. And the SIRA Act, if you look at South Africa today, I think there are more than 3 million security guards, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you're quite correct.
I don't have figures in front of me, but it's quite a lot. Now, that act was actually brought in to cater specifically for the private security industry in South Africa. And if you look at the legislation and you look at the SIRA Act and you look at what is in the Act, you'll see it talks almost exclusively about security officers.
Okay, the guy that stands in the gate, at the gate, and guards the gate or the building.
Yeah, not necessarily. For the guy who does it, CIT, cash and transit, also
okay. Yes. Yeah.
a security guard. But the Act was never focused on investigators. It touches on it by saying you have to be registered, but then it gives a number of exceptions. For example, if you are a forensic investigator in the employ of a corporate entity, you're exempt. Or there are quite a number of exemptions. And I know that ACFE, they have applied also to not fall under that Act. So it is still debate whether an investigator should be a member of SIRA or not. I am, but it was never written for investigators. If you look at the training, if you look at anything it stands for, they don't. It is not structured functions for investigators at all. But you do have organizations like the ACFE and the ICFP that actually focuses specifically on investigators in a private and corporate environment.
Okay.
Now,
but
in a private and
currently
corporate
the SIRA Act, currently the SIRA Act stands. So if you're external to a company like you are, then you abide by that law.
Look, I abide by it because simply it's no skin off my nose.
Yes.
It's not been tested in court. It's not been tested in court. So privately, I think it's not necessary.
but
I abide by it. I don't want to test something there.
Yes. Let's not test it. Let's not be the group that tests it.
No, you have to go back. If you go to the Constitution, the Criminal Procedure Act.
Yeah.
Now, lots of times evidence, they look at the evidence, how it was gathered, what was gathered, and whether it's admissible at court. And often whether you're a member of a public or you belong to this organization or that, it's not really material to the fact of the case to the facts in front of the court. And there are also case law that touches on it where evidence presented by people who were not registered SIRA was accepted as evidence in court because it did not
Okay.
affect the merit of the evidence.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I
again,
hear you.
that's a
Yeah.
different argument that we should not
Please, let's not.
make it an issue here.
Yes, yes. The mere fact that you, and I know your background and your whole portfolio, the mere fact that you have decided to do that and register it and check that box for me says a lot more than everything else. And if that's what my students take away from this, that although it's untested, check that box, it's no skin off your nose. It gives the opposition less wiggle room to say, yeah, but he's not registered or she's not registered. So yeah, I
Correct.
think that's, yeah. Okay. So if we
Yeah,
go
I
to the,
think you, yeah,
no,
yeah. Sorry, just
finish.
it doesn't matter whether you're in the private environment or a police officer. If you go to testify, if you go to write a report, if you go to and you write a statement, you always have to say who you are,
Yes.
what is your experience. With other words,
Yes.
that goes to credibility as well. So all
Yeah.
these things matter. It does not perhaps matter on the facts of the case, but it
Yeah.
matters in terms of credibility. And you never know when the credibility issue becomes the main issue. So I like to I think the word is dot your I's and cross your T's.
Yes. Yes. I like
Why
that as
leave
well.
it not uncrossed if you
Yes.
rather do it that way and you
Yeah.
know
Yeah. Don't tempt
yeah,
fate.
okay. I don't really think so, but yes, let us
Yeah. Okay.
and just interest sake, we also have to understand a few different things here. When you're a
Okay.
witness in court, for example, you will be
Yes.
required to write an affidavit, or the police will take an affidavit of you. That
Yeah.
affidavit goes into the case docket, and the defense counsel has access to it.
Yes.
So the day when you go to give testimony in court, doesn't matter whether it's a regional or a low court or a high court,
Yes.
you can refresh your memory from your statement, but they can use
Mm-hmm.
that statement, the defense counsel,
Yes.
to also cross-examine you.
Mm.
So that is a very important thing. Now, if you're in the private environment, we often write reports.
Yeah. Okay.
Reports
Park
actually
that.
fall under the hearsay
Yes.
rule.
Okay.
Okay,
But park that
it's a
because we're
different
going
thing.
to chat. Yes, we're
Ah,
going to chat about reports. Before we
about
get to the
yes,
report, let's talk about the mandate or the letter of engagement. Now, you did speak about the police having
yes,
a mandate. You, as Gideon
yes.
Jones in your company, how do you get engaged or involved in an investigation? What happens? I understand when you work at SARS, your line manager gives you a job to do, but you, as totally outside, explain to us how this process works.
Okay, you work for a client. Let us say someone approaches you, a private person approaches you, and
Yeah.
say to you, "Look, I've got a problem at my business.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff that gets stolen. I want you to investigate it."
Mm-hmm.
Now, your client, let's call it Mr. X, he's got standing to investigate it because he's part of that. Uh, um, uh, he's got I don't know exactly. He's got standing. Let me rather.
Vested
He's got
interest.
standing in the matter. Yes, he's got
Okay.
an interest in the matter. You, as a
Okay.
private investigator, have got no interest in that case.
Okay.
You've got no locus standi. That's the word, as
Okay.
I can, if I can put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be appointed
Okay.
by the client or mandated by the client to do the investigation. Now, the law does not say you have to be mandated in written format. You
Mm-hmm.
can be in oral format. With other words, X can tell you, "I want you to investigate." Is that a
Okay.
mandate? Yes. Your problem that you have is that's a very weak and a very difficult mandate to put in paper and later to testify about. So
Mm-hmm.
what I always do is I write out, I engage with the client, and then you'll get, and I take down in writing, what is the problem? What is the issue you want me to investigate?
Mm-hmm.
Then I will go back to my office and I will prepare a proposal, an investigation proposal.
Okay.
Now, uh, often investigators do that without even realizing they're doing it. I'm now talking about the formal way of doing it.
Okay.
And how you approach a proposal, you put down the background of the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Then you say, what are my specific objectives or my mandate that I have to go by?
Okay.
And remember, in a private environment, everything goes about resources, not in the state. A police
Yeah.
officer is not required to say beforehand, I'm going to spend 200 hours on a case and it will cost so much per hour. But in a private environment, almost every case, there
Yeah.
is money involved because you get paid for it.
Mm.
So they will say, how long will it take you? How many hours? What will the cost be, etc. And you have to go and work that out. And then once your client goes through that document with a time frame, with your objectives, scope of work. Now, you must know what you write there because you
Yeah.
are being bound by it. And later on, if you go to court, that same document can be used for or against you.
Mm.
And the client will then probably sign it, and they will give you a different mandate document, or on your letter of or your proposal, they can say, we mandate you to conduct this investigation. The client signs it, or the client sends you an email, which is just
Okay.
as good.
Okay.
And then you've got a written authorization. So when you speak to, let's say I go and speak to Bernardine at UNISA on a matter,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then I can say to her, I have been mandated. And she can actually ask me, where is your mandate? I want to see it.
Okay.
We don't often, people don't do that,
Yeah.
but they can do it. And you can say, no, I don't have a written mandate. And then Bernardine can tell me, go and obtain a written mandate. Or here is the
Yes.
mandate and check it
Yeah.
out. So all these are technical matters, but yes, you have
Mm.
to have a mandate. And you cannot deviate from your mandate. If your mandate deals with a specific matter, I cannot now go as an investigator, go outside my mandate and start asking questions, let's say, about Bernardine's personal life. It's
Mm-hmm.
not material to the issue. I've
Okay.
got no standing to do so. It is ethically incorrect.
Mm.
And from a civil perspective in the business, it simply doesn't stand. It doesn't stand. There's nothing that can force her to tell me that who she lives with, except if it is material
Yes.
to the case. If not
Yeah.
material to the case, you have to be very careful what you
Mm.
talk about. It might be that while you're busy talking to a person, they tell you, look, I've lived here and this is my background, etc. That is fine.
Yeah.
But you cannot just work outside your mandate. You have to stick to what your mandate is.
Mm.
Now, this is also now very important. Your mandate will determine, let us say I've completed my investigation against Bernardine or where she's involved. And I find evidence and I collect evidence that she's been involved in theft of 20,000 Rand at the university.
Mm-hmm.
I will actually write a report and I will submit it to the person who gave me the authority to conduct the investigation.
Okay.
That person has to decide whether to prosecute or not to prosecute her. I cannot make that decision. That
Mm.
report is not my property. The report is the property of the person who mandated me or appointed me.
Mm. So it's
Now,
not your
let us say
responsibility,
again.
Gideon. It's not your responsibility,
Yeah,
whether you are an
but
in-house or an external investigator, to charge a person. That will be the
no, look,
disciplinary committee or
no.
whatever.
Yeah, look, in-house, it might be different. I don't know the
Okay.
rules of that company. The
Yeah.
rules of the company might say that you as an in-house investigator has got this responsibility. Then that
Okay.
is your responsibility.
But that is
But let
dictated by
us now say
policy.
you're a private person.
Mm-hmm.
But let's make it a little bit more intricate. Let us say
Yes.
you've stolen 600,000 Rand.
Yes.
Now, in terms of current legislation, the Corruption Act,
Yes.
that must be reported to the police.
Who must report it?
Oh, not the investigator. The
Uh-huh.
person who actually mandated you. The university has to report it.
Okay. Okay.
Or the client has to report it.
Yeah. The person who hired you.
Yeah. But now, if you also
Okay.
look at certain, there are other legislation in our country. We have to be very careful. Let's say, for example, child molestation. If
Yes.
I'm a witness to something, I have to report it as a member of the public. So you have to
Yes.
know your laws. You have to know, where am I legally in terms of this? What is my
Okay.
standing?
Yeah.
I don't have to report anything usually as a private person. You are not compelled to
Yeah.
report 99% of cases, but there are laws where you have to report anything that comes to your attention. You're obliged to
Yes.
report.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. So I think we've covered the letter of engagement or the letter of mandate. Talk to us a little
Yes.
bit about writing the report.
Yeah. I would say that majority, the vast majority, I'll say if I go to my, let us say 3,000 cases and the 16,000 cases of insurance industry. Insurance industry, it's almost all, it's always a report. It's a report
Yes. Yeah.
which you submit to the company and they make a decision based on it. And they will actually go to the ombudsman on that with that report.
Okay.
And if that, let us say civil litigation emanates from that incident or that investigation, I have seen that report go to civil trial, to attorneys, to lawyers, to
Sure.
advocates, and that report actually can end up in high court. And you can actually be subpoenaed to testify, and then you can use that report also as a basis for your testimony. I've seen where we've written reports in criminal cases 6 years after the fact, when the case docket disappeared, our report or a copy of our report was used as a basis to provide or to testify in court, in a criminal court, in a high court.
Sure.
And the person, the accused, got more than 100 years of imprisonment.
Yeah. So
So
your
guys,
paperwork is
everything
vital.
you do, yes, everything is vital. Everything you do. The one thing that I can tell investigators, every single thing you do must be must be recorded,
Documented.
if I can put it this way, documented.
Okay. Yeah.
Every interview you conduct must be recorded, not necessarily written down. In the private environment, we don't write down quite a lot. You know why? Just
Why?
because investigations are very expensive,
Yeah.
and investigators are paid by the hour.
Okay.
Now, an investigation can quickly run into the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands.
Yo.
If you look at major investigations, it can run into the millions and take 2-3 years to complete. That is not the issue with criminal investigations, but I'll give you another example. I like to talk about it because that's my latest.
Yeah.
I've helped a company to investigate a fraud matter. It took a team of people under I was in charge of the team. I think we were 6 people. It took us 6 months to compile a statement. The statement is 850 pages.
Oh,
Now,
that is.
that is now the extreme. That's not usually what
Yeah. Yeah.
you'll find outside, but that's a criminal case. And I've been involved in all kinds of cases, murders, quite a lot, all kinds of anything you can think of. I've
Gideon,
been involved. Don't think if you're privately,
private
you cannot be
investigator,
involved.
you've done murder investigations.
Quite a
Who
number.
hires you?
Quite a
Who
number.
hires you?
One of the parties that's got a locus standi. For example, the employer of an employee that was murdered.
Yes.
Acquired, or a parent, or
Okay.
a person, or his spouse, to
Okay.
assist with the investigation. Look, you have to understand what you have got access to, how you have to obtain certain information. Sometimes you don't have access, and then you have to go the legal route. You have to go to court and obtain it. So you have to understand what your standing is in any investigation. It's not the easiest of things, but now this fraud case, for example, we did the investigation, gave it to the police. They gave our investigation as it is to the Director of Public Prosecutions to make a decision. So there's a lot of interaction. It all
Yes.
depends on case-to-case basis.
Yeah. So there's cooperation a
Sometimes
lot of the
there's
times.
cooperation, sometimes there's a lot of antagonism from
Oh,
police.
that's
But then
unfortunate,
I've
eh?
seen it many times. Yeah, but it's usually the case where police officers don't do their work and they know
Oh,
they're now
okay.
going to be exposed for it.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's
I
unfortunate, eh?
find that quite a lot. Unfortunate, but
Sure.
that's a real life, yes.
Gideon, we were speaking previously also about the one or two of the principles for writing an investigative report, grounding or anchoring what you are doing. Chat with us a little bit about that quickly, please.
Yes, I think a few weeks ago I read a case law in High Court
Mm-hmm.
about the pointing out, and I read what the judge said about the police officers,
Yeah.
where they could not even say where it happened. They could not point out the exact. They could not describe the place where the
Mm.
incident occurred, the murder. They could not say on what date it was. They could not say what they found as evidence. Guys, let me rephrase it.
What?
2 months ago, I attended an armed robbery. No, 1 month ago, at a
Yeah.
family member of mine, a very close relative of mine, where armed robbers entered the premises. There was a shootout. One of the guys was shot, one of the perpetrators.
Yeah.
It took the police 95 minutes to arrive at the scene. The following day, shell casings and bullets were found on the scene to be handed to the police.
Mm,
Blood of the one perpetrator was spilled on the scene. They never took a blood sample.
mm.
And let me tell you personally, I've had bullets that were removed from victims that I obtained from the surgeon that I had to take to the police and say, here's a bullet. Very important piece of material, of evidence. Sorry,
Oh, it's
I've just
amazing.
lost it. Yeah, it is amazing. And I'm not faulting the police. It's just, I mean, they've got a lot of work. I understand it totally. But the reality, the anchoring of stuff.
Anchoring. Yeah.
I've been in an investigation, a major investigation. It was in the newspapers, where I worked with the investigating team of the police for 2 weeks. And in this time, they did not make one entry in one pocketbook that I saw. At the completion of this, a few months later, specialized unit contacted me, and we actually handed them our report to get a
Oh,
detailed uh, 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 timeline of what happened. Now, and private guys also do that. You
yeah.
have to everything you do, everything someone says to you. If you get in your vehicle and you stop at a specific place, you must be able to say date, place, time. Date,
Mm,
place, time. If you write anything down, you must be able to explain, how do I know what I'm writing down? Is it
mm,
hearsay, or is it that I observe it myself? Is it direct evidence? And
yeah.
if it's hearsay, who's the witness who told me?
Yeah.
Because that person then becomes the witness, not me.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's what you mentioned just now as well. When you do your report, when is it hearsay and when is it direct evidence?
Yeah, that is technical in nature, because
Mm,
sometimes you
mm,
can't testify about hearsay. It all depends.
yes.
The rule is you cannot, but
Yeah.
you sometimes can. Um, but what I always suggest to investigators, whether you're private, and I also train police officers, make no mistake, investigators
Mm-hmm.
in a police environment, is that everything you do, record it. Every witness you interview or suspect that you might interview or interrogate or confront, you
Mm-hmm.
record it on tape,
Okay. Audio.
um, audio. Yeah,
Do you
why we
have to
use
tell the
audio? You can do
person?
it on video.
Yeah.
No, you don't
Y-
have to. You don't have to. No.
Oh,
There's no legal requirement on you to inform a person. If you are part of the conversation,
yeah.
and there's case law, Judge Mutata
Mm-hmm.
was convicted of drunk driving. He was recorded.
Yes. Yeah.
Nobody had his permission. That is one of the case law cases that you can look at.
Okay.
There is
Okay.
no third party monitoring is illegal. In other words, where I
Yes.
leave my tape recorder and I leave the room, and
Yeah.
other people are talking and I record it, for example, or telephone where you
Yes.
Well, when I'm on the phone with you, I can record the conversation without
Yes,
your
yes,
consent.
yes. Yeah, yeah. Okay, that makes
No
sense.
consent
That's
required.
interesting.
No consent
That's
required.
interesting. And I don't even have to inform you that I'm recording
You
the
don't have to
conversation.
inform. No.
Okay, all right.
I've
Okay,
had an
that's
interesting
interesting.
case. Listen to this one.
Yes.
In a private environment, I've had a very interesting one where the witness said, who actually was later on the suspect, we knew it, he was going to be the suspect because, and he didn't, he said, I don't want to be recorded. So what we did is we put that off the recorder, but we recorded them on a different device. And that stands as evidence. Sometimes you don't always have to tell the truth. Remember that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
You're not obliged to always tell the truth to a person. You can lie to a suspect as a police officer and as a private person. There are ethical issues here, but if it's in terms, if it's legal what you do, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
For example, you say to a person, I'm here to assist you. I mean, that's the biggest lie of all. You're not there to assist the suspect. You're there to get evidence to convict him.
Okay. And I can say, for example, to you, Gideon, you know what, I'm investigating this theft. We have video footage showing X, Y, and Z.
We
and
do
I mean,
that
then
often.
I have nothing. Okay.
Yes. You don't have the footage, but you tell the person who you are now interviewing or interrogating that you have got video footage.
Yeah.
Let's say you know that he entered the door. We say to the person who's now a suspect, we know you entered that door. You entered, we've got video, we've got you on video. Now the suspect now, he knows that he entered the door. Perhaps he saw the camera there. Unbeknownst to him, the camera didn't work or didn't record. He doesn't know it. Can you lie to him? He doesn't know it. Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, I'm saying this with a caveat.
Yes.
You must know what you're doing in terms of the law.
The law. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, certain things are totally prohibited. You can, for example, everything that you obtain from someone must be free.
Yes.
You cannot coerce a person, illegal coercing. I'm not talking about legally getting a person to talk. You cannot assault a person.
Yeah.
It must be fair. So there are lots of requirements, but there's enough case law that actually dictates on this. And if you want to go and read case law, go and look at pointings out.
Yes.
In case law, and you can look at admissions and confessions. There's enough case law to address those issues.
Yeah,
that goes to the constitutional court even.
Yeah, the recent case law you sent me, I will also share with the students so that they can read that. That is also very interesting on the pointing out.
Yes, there are lots of interesting stuff. So we have to know the law. In a private environment, you have to know. You have to know lots of stuff. But and again, let me give you an example. I'm doing an investigation for a company where the company has got a policy, a very bad policy, that says a person has the right to be represented by someone, or let's say by a legal representative. You cannot interview him without being a legal representative being present.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a bad piece of company. They did not think it through. It's probably a lawyer who wrote it. But now let's say you do it without a lawyer being present.
Yeah.
In terms of company policy, you cannot use that evidence to prosecute a person or for misconduct or anything.
Yeah.
So you have to understand what your company policy says as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's unfortunate, eh?
You can take that evidence to you can open a case docket and prosecute him and get him convicted. Yeah, you can do that. Yes,
but not in terms of company policy.
But if the company policy says this is what you have to do, then you have to do it. And again, if it must adhere to the law of the land.
Yeah.
Gideon, under the law of the land. Yes.
A last question about investigative reports. There's not one perfect example. So in other words, there are different formats, there are different versions. So there is not one silver bullet for the structure and format of this is
No.
what a perfect investigative report should be like.
Okay, and I'm now talking from a private environment, because in the police
Yes.
environment, you don't write the investigation reports. You only write
Yeah.
it in a private environment.
Yes.
Now,
Okay.
I present this as one of the training topics to students at
Mm-hmm.
the ICFE sometimes.
Yeah.
And I present 10 different examples of reports to them.
Okay. Okay.
There's a big international company,
Mm-hmm.
company. Their format are 2 pages, no more than
Sure.
2 pages.
Sure.
Yes, unbelievable as it might seem, that's how they want it. So the really, it is as wide as you can think it. There are certain things that you probably will always have in every report, like a background
Yeah.
description, or they will say, what is the problem description?
Mm-hmm.
Again, they use different words.
Yeah.
In certain, like the insurance industry, they will also not call you an investigator, or they will call you are being referred to as a verifier.
Okay. Yes. Okay. That's
Now,
interesting.
it's playing with words,
Mm.
but when you go to court, the law will treat it as investigator. You
Yeah.
must understand that.
Yeah. I hear you. Okay. I think we have reached the
Intricacies
end
of
of
every
our.
company.
Yeah. Okay. I think we've reached the end of of the of the session. I only noticed now that I didn't change my footer. Can I ask? We have students who've joined us. You are more than welcome to raise your hand, and I will acknowledge you, and then you can ask your question. If you are not comfortable to ask a question, you can always just pop your question into the chat box for us. Are there any questions? Okay, if there are no questions, I'm going to end the session. Gideon, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and your insight and your reflection. Every time I listen to you, I learn something new. So I always find the engagement absolutely insightful. The one thing I wanted to ask, and it's a challenge that a lot of our
Yes.
students have, is the where do they go to get experience? Because a lot of the companies want
Yeah.
experience.
There's
Where should they start?
there's no career path. There's no clear career path. That is
Okay.
problematic,
Okay.
because in 99% of cases, they want experienced investigators to investigate something. Now, how do you
Yes.
become an experienced investigator?
Yeah.
The problem that you have is that it's so expensive to conduct
Yes.
investigation, because you're being paid by an hour, by the hour.
Yes.
The
Yes.
majority of investigators that I know of are former police officers,
Yeah.
investigators, or they work for companies like your big, uh, um, like Ernst and Young, or one of
Okay.
those companies,
Okay.
and obtain the information, study at the university. But again, it's such a wide field. It's such a wide
Okay.
field that what is applicable to one company is not applicable. For instance, if you conduct surveillance as a work, as your job,
Yes.
there's no training for it in any tertiary institution. None.
Yeah, that's true,
Zero.
hey? That's true. So where do you learn
Yeah,
that?
there's nothing.
Yeah.
You go to a company who does it, but
Ah,
then you know
okay.
nothing, so they're going to pay you nothing, I suppose. I
Yes,
don't
yes,
think.
yeah, I hear you. No, I hear you. I hear you. Oh my word. Okay, so I think what I also then want to ask you, do you think internships will be an option if
Oh,
industry
your
can
problem with
be,
your, yeah,
yeah,
your no, your problem with internships
Yeah.
it can only be offered by big companies.
Yes. 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 That's what I'm
Small
talking
companies
about.
work on a
Yeah.
case-to-case basis,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
I
mean
hear
I
you.
can sit here with and for 10 days no cases.
Yes. Yeah.
And then suddenly one case pops up and I'm busy for 3 months on that specific case.
I hear
So you
you. I
cannot
hear you.
provide the person with a constant, it's too expensive.
Yeah. Okay. No. 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 That makes sense. No, that makes sense. Yeah.
But your big companies can do it. And then big companies, like let's say UNISA has got an investigation unit. You
Yeah.
can apply there and perhaps start from the bottom.
Okay.
Again, theoretically, you can do
Yes.
stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. No, thank you for
But
that
career
insight.
path, no.
Okay. All right. So it's definitely something we will have to investigate with big corporates, let me
Yeah,
put
the
it that way.
ACFE and the ICFP are actually looking at it. I have to say
Okay.
that they are looking at, I would say, your auditors, your
Yes.
professional
Yes. Yes.
people
Yeah.
who's already been in the business for 10 years.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, thank you. If there are no further
Pleasure.
questions, I'm going to end the recording and bid everybody a goodbye.